What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sports Talk with Ryan Stoudt. I am your host, of course, Ryan Stoudt, and I'm going to be bringing you today the latest in the sports world. We got a lot of NBA to go over. So, of course, the NBA playoffs just started, but before we get into all of the topics today, I do want to do a little bit of advertising. First of all, in the chat, John Mark Stivers, what's up to you? Go follow his show, Crunch Time Sports Show. Also, Landon Hammonds hosts Fuel to the Fire, two great shows. If you want to get some more sports content, you can go and check those shows out. Also, I do want to advertise to you my Facebook group, Sports Talk with Ryan Stoudt on Facebook. You can just find it. It has the logo that you see in the thumbnail on YouTube here and the logo that you see on all podcast streaming services. You can find the Facebook group. That's where I'm going to be doing my play-by-plays. Sunday, I will be calling the Sunday Night Baseball game. I have to check on who that is. I think the St. Louis Cardinals are playing, so that's one of the teams that I'll be covering Sunday night on my Facebook page. So you're going to want to go check that out on and join that Facebook group so that you can see the play-by-plays. And, of course, follow my TikTok account, Sports Talk with Ryan Stoudt, where you'll be able to see little clips of different things that come out, breaking news, things like that. I just sort of make videos on TikTok when things come out before I actually do my show. That way you guys can see a little bit of what I'm thinking, what you're going to get on the show. And, if you like it, you can tune into the show. If not, you can wait for another topic that you might like. But that's a perfect segue into our first topic, which, of course, is the NBA playoffs. That's going to be the majority of the show. And, of course, if you follow me on TikTok, you saw on Sports Talk with Ryan Stoudt, that's the account on TikTok, you saw that I did play-in tournament predictions. I went 2 for 2, which is something that never happens when I predict the playoffs. If you watched my NFL shows that I did with Landon, the NFL playoffs, I did not do so hot on my predictions there. I went 2 for 2 on the Eastern Conference last night. Indiana did win, and the Celtics did win 2 blowout victories, but we'll talk about that coming up. I did want to mention that the Celtics, I know, won 118-100. I did not catch the final score of the Indiana game. I know Indiana did blow Charlotte out, though. It was it wasn't a very close game at all. And, I thought Washington was going to be a close game, but that wasn't either. So we're going to jump in. What I'm going to do is I have my bracket right here. So I'm going to go through the play-in tournament predictions again, if you didn't see the TikTok videos. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rattle off my bracket picks right here for you guys. So, play-in tournament yesterday, obviously we know I picked, if you saw the videos, I did pick the Celtics, and I picked Indiana to win both of those games. They did win both of those games, meaning that now Washington plays Indiana for the 8th spot, and the Celtics automatically have that 7th spot. They will play Brooklyn. Now, the Western Conference tonight, Golden State plays the Los Angeles Lakers, and this, trust me when I tell you this, guys, if you are looking for some NBA action tonight to watch, you are going to want to watch this game. This is LeBron versus Steph. This is a game that is going to be just very, very fun to watch. Trust me. This is a game for you if you like high-paced scoring. So Golden State plays Los Angeles tonight, and I believe the Memphis and San Antonio play tonight. So if you saw my video again on TikTok, my TikTok account, I picked the Grizzlies to beat the San Antonio Spurs, which means they would move on to play for the 8th spot. And I picked the Lakers to beat the Warriors because LeBron and Anthony Davis are going to be in. I'm almost positive that they're going to be playing tonight. And I'll start with that game. That was a very tough pick. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Taking the Lakers as a 7 seed over I believe the 8 seed, the Warriors, was an extremely tough pick for me. Landon in the chat says the Warriors are going to win by 10 plus. And that could very well happen. I was texting my cousin earlier today, and he texted me, and he said that he really thinks that Golden State can win. Like, this, if the Lakers are going to lose a game, this is going to be the game that the Lakers lose. And I think it's a possibility because if Steph shoots the lights out, the Golden State Warriors are going to win, in my opinion. And it's a very real possibility. I don't see it happening. I picked the Lakers to move on because when LeBron and Anthony Davis are healthy, they're a very, very tough team to beat. Now, granted, LeBron James has been regressing, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I do want to say that I did pick the Lakers to win this game. Lakers get the 7th spot. And then I picked Golden State to beat Memphis for that 8th spot. In the East, I picked Indiana to beat Washington for that 8th spot. So now we have our full playoff bracket set. I'm going to start, or my playoff bracket set. I'm going to start in the Western Conference with my picks for the playoffs. So after the play-in tournament, I have Utah playing the 8th seed Golden State, and this is going to be a very, very fun series as well. A lot of people say that Utah is overrated, but that 20+ game win streak in January showed me something. So I have Utah winning in 6 or 7. It's going to be a very, very tight series. They move on. And then the LA Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks, a rematch of last year's playoffs. And I think, and here's your first hot take for the playoffs, I think that LA gets booted in the first round. Dallas is going to beat LA in 7 games. It's going to be a very, very intense and fun series to watch again. That means Utah and Dallas would play in the next round. Then we have Denver and Portland. I took Denver in this game. I took Denver in this game. They lost Jamal Murray, but they're still playing tough. Nikola Jokic is in. So is Aaron Gordon. So I did pick Denver to move on. And then Phoenix and Los Angeles. I have both Los Angeles teams getting booted in the first round. Phoenix is going to beat Los Angeles in 7 games. And I think Denver's going to beat Portland in 7 games as well. But I think Phoenix gets the win in 7 because Phoenix is just on fire right now. They're one of the best teams in the league, in my opinion. And if there's anybody that can compete with the Brooklyn Nets, it's going to be the Phoenix Suns. Landon in the chat says Utah is overrated. I won't go too much into depth on this because I do disagree, obviously. But I don't want to take up too much of the show as we already have a stacked show. Landon, what I'll say to you is a team can't be overrated and have 20+ wins in a row. That's the way I look at it, right? Donovan Mitchell has been playing out of his mind. Rudy Gobert, still a great defensive presence, whether you like it or not. Jordan Clarkson, 6th man of the year, in my opinion. So all the signs are there. They point to Utah not being overrated. I think Utah is actually properly rated at that 1 spot in the West. They deserve the 1 spot in the West. They had the best record in the West, and they had one of the best years, in my opinion. So then we have Utah and Dallas, Denver and Phoenix. Utah and Dallas, call this a hot take too. I have Dallas beating Utah in 7 games, moving on to the Western Conference Finals, because I think Luka is finally ready. Luka is going to live up to the hype this playoffs, and we are going to see a whole new Luka Doncic. I mean, you think Luka Doncic plays at a high level in the regular season? It's going to be a step up in the playoffs, in my opinion. That is what's going to happen. Dallas moves on to the Western Conference Finals. Then we have Denver and Phoenix. I give the win to Phoenix in 5 or 6 games, meaning that Dallas and Phoenix would play in the Western Conference Finals. I think this series goes 6 games. I give it to Phoenix. Chris Paul finally gets in the NBA Finals and gets a shot at a championship. And, I would love to see Chris Paul in the NBA Finals. Seeing Chris Paul in the NBA Finals, I think that would make any NBA fan happy because there's nobody in the league that deserves to be in the NBA Finals more than Chris Paul. For all the work that he's put in, one of the best point guards of all time, okay? He's one of the best point guards of all time, and he has not once been in an NBA Finals. Neither is Russell Westbrook, but I think Chris Paul's a better point guard than Russell Westbrook. Call that a hot take, but when you're looking at overall talent and overall ability, I would take Chris Paul any day of the week over Russell Westbrook. As far as facilitating and ball handling, I would take Chris Paul in a heartbeat over Russell Westbrook. So yeah, I have Phoenix going to the finals in the Western Conference. Then we have the Eastern Conference, Philly and Indiana. Obviously, Philly's going to win this game. I give 4 or 5 games for Philly. They might sweep them. The New York Knicks and Atlanta, the 4 versus 5 matchup. The New York Knicks have been playing tough. And you know what? I think the New York Knicks have a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to win this series. Check this out. They're going to win this series in 6 games, or 5 or 6 games, I would say. And that means that New York and Philly would play in the next round. Then we have Milwaukee and Miami. This was a tough game for me to pick because Miami is Milwaukee's kryptonite. We saw that last year. I picked Milwaukee to win this game. I think Milwaukee finally gets over the hump. They move on to the next round. Brooklyn versus Boston. As much as I hate to say it, Boston's just in disarray. They had one good game. Jason Tatum put up 50, and he's not going to put up 50 every night. So Brooklyn is going to move on in 4 or 5 games, in my opinion. They might sweep the Celtics, meaning that Philly would play the New York Knicks, and I gave the win to Philly in 5 or 6 games to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I gave Brooklyn the win over Milwaukee in 7 games. That's going to be a fun series to watch. And then we have Brooklyn and Philly in the Eastern Conference Finals. I gave Brooklyn the win in 7 games, which means that Phoenix and Brooklyn will be playing in this year's NBA Finals. It's going to be a very fun finals to watch. And I will be the first to say that I will be standing behind Chris Paul, rooting for Chris Paul to win an NBA championship. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Brooklyn is just going to run roughshod over everybody, and Brooklyn is going to win this series in 6 games, and the Brooklyn Nets are going to be the NBA champions. Now, everybody says, KD, he's injured. He's not playing the way he used to. Kyrie, he's not focused on basketball right now. James Harden's coming off of an injury. The Nets are just not there 100%. We'll see come playoff time. You get those 3 players on the same team in the playoffs, the Nets are going to win the NBA Finals, in my opinion. And those are my official NBA playoff predictions. In the chat, I just want to throw up a comment here. John Mark says, Westbrook was in the finals with a young James Harden and KD. And yeah, he was. And I think Kyrie could make a difference there. And, let's look at who they were playing, right? They were playing the 2012-2013 Miami Heat, one of the best teams ever, in my opinion. Chris Bosh, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Shane Battier was on that team. You're not going to compete with a team like that. And Landon says he has the 76ers and the Suns in the finals and the 76ers winning in 6. I don't trust the 76ers. I'm sorry. I really don't trust the 76ers in the finals. And John Mark, I won't share this one, but he says James Harden chokes in the playoffs and KD's injury prone now. Okay. We'll see. We'll see come playoff time. I'm sure they'll kick it up a notch. And maybe I'm wrong, and John Mark has the Nets versus Jazz Nets in 6. But John Mark, you just contradicted yourself then. You said that James Harden's going to choke and KD's injury prone, but you have him winning the finals. So that leaves Kyrie. I mean, hey, if Kyrie Irving can do it on his own, all power to him. But back to the 76ers one. I don't trust the 76ers, Landon. I'm sorry. But they haven't shown me anything in the playoffs. I don't trust the Philadelphia 76ers. I'd love to see it. I think they deserve it. And I think Joel Embiid deserves it, to be quite honest, as much as I don't like Joel Embiid. And then, but I don't trust the Sixers. I really don't trust the Sixers. And I'd have to see, it'd take me a lot of convincing to believe that they could go far in the playoffs. Yeah. John Mark in the chat, he was hating on the Nets. And John Mark, you have the Nets winning in 6. He's in the chat saying that James Harden and KD have issues holding them back. Then why are the Nets going to win in 6? If the Nets are, if KD and Harden have all these issues, why are the Nets still going to win the NBA championship in 6? I agree they're going to win the NBA championship in 6. They're going to do it over the Phoenix Suns, in my opinion. But Kyrie's not going to win a championship on his own. KD and Harden are going to be there. Blake Griffin also is, he's getting up there in age, but he helps them out a lot. But John Mark, I don't understand. To me, if I'm someone that believes that Harden chokes in the playoffs, which I don't believe at all, he had a couple bad rounds in the playoffs, and he didn't have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant with him in the playoffs. But if I'm truly somebody that believes that James Harden chokes in the playoffs and Kevin Durant is injury prone, I am not taking the Nets to go to the finals. I might not even take the Nets to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, let alone win the finals in 6. That's just my opinion. But I won't go on about that. We have some more topics to go over. The Lakers play tonight. Can they beat the Golden State Warriors? I want to go back to this game for a second. The Lakers have struggled all year long. LeBron James and Anthony Davis have had injuries on and off. And it's looking like LeBron James is not 100% anymore. And I would like to weigh in on that because LeBron James is not 100% anymore. If Anthony Davis or LeBron James are not in a series, the Lakers will lose. If one of them gets injured, the Lakers will lose. Anthony Davis can't do it on his own. We saw that in New Orleans. And LeBron James, now adjust your audio, folks, because I am going to say this correctly. LeBron James is washed, okay? LeBron James, after coming back from that ankle injury, has not played the same, and it's because he's washed, okay? He's getting up there in age. The ankle injury didn't help. LeBron said it himself. He will never play 100% ever again. Period. Point blank. That's what he said. He said he'll never play 100% ever again. And I believe him 100%. I think LeBron is washed. I'm not saying he's a terrible player, because I'll never say LeBron's a terrible player. He's not the best player in the league right now. There's no chance he's the best player in the league right now with the way he's playing after that ankle injury. He was in the MVP conversation before that ankle injury. Now Steph Curry is going to win the MVP, in my opinion. Bottom line, LeBron James is a good player. He's a great player. He's not phenomenal anymore. Michael Jordan wasn't phenomenal when he went to the Wizards anymore. Michael Jordan was washed on the Wizards. He was an okay player on an okay Wizards squad. And Michael Jordan is a better all-time player than LeBron James. And I will say that 10 times out of 10, that Michael Jordan is a better player than LeBron James overall. Michael Jordan's one of the best athletes ever grace God's green earth. One of the best basketball player of all time. But LeBron James is not going to live up to Michael Jordan. We know that now. LeBron isn't going to win another title. LeBron has, 4 championships? Michael Jordan has 6. Right there. Right there is your argument. LeBron James will never, and I repeat this, I'll repeat it, LeBron James will never win another NBA championship. It won't happen. LeBron James is liable to retire in the next 4 or 5 years. Maybe even 3. What is he, 37? NBA fans, Lakers fans, LeBron fans, the era of LeBron is over in the NBA. It's over. There are younger players in the league. There are better players in the league right now. Not many of them, but there are. And there are people in the league that you put these guys on a team against a LeBron team, they could sweep them. LeBron is just, he had a good run. He's a top 5 player in NBA history. Nobody's denying that he's a top 5 player in NBA history. LeBron James is no longer the king of the NBA. He's done. He is absolutely done. And I think he retires an LA Laker within the next 4 years. He retires as an LA Laker. He's going to try to win another NBA championship. It won't happen. Not a chance. Unless they pull off some big superstar move, which I can't see happening with the position they're in. They will never win another NBA championship. It just won't happen. LeBron won't win another NBA championship. The Lakers will. I guarantee you the Lakers will win another NBA championship. LeBron won't. LeBron's done. And that's what I have on that. John Mark says it's Luka time in the chat. Yeah, I can see that. I can see Luka Doncic being the new best player in the NBA. Who do I think is best player in the NBA right now? Call me crazy, but I think James Harden's making a running for best player in the NBA right now. Steph Curry's making a running for best player in the NBA right now. Giannis Antetokounmpo could be the best player in the NBA right now. John Mark says he thinks LeBron will retire a Cavalier. I could see it. I could see LeBron doing one of those things where he signs for like a day before he retires. He'll finish his career as a Laker. He'll play his last game as an LA Laker. He's not going to go back to Cleveland for a third time. Trust me. He will not go back to Cleveland. Well, he could. The way we'll know is if they pick up some superstar. Because we all know LeBron can't do it by himself. LeBron couldn't do it by himself 2 years ago. When everybody said that LeBron was still in his prime. He couldn't do it by himself. I knew LeBron was regressing 2 years ago. I knew he was regressing when he didn't carry the Lakers to at least a playoff spot. I mean, I expected him to take him at least to a playoff spot. He didn't do anything. So, point to be made here is that LeBron's career is just about over, and he'll retire in the next 4 years. Moving on, we have the Boston Celtics. I want to talk about them for a second because they're now the 7th spot in the East, and nobody expected them to be that low, right? They had Kemba Walker at the beginning of the season. They had Jaylen Brown. They had Jason Tatum. They have Jason Tatum, excuse me. And they picked up Tristan Thompson, which isn't much of a pickup. They had a decent draft. And they end up as a 7th spot in the East. So how does that happen? Well, first of all, let me point this out to you. Kemba Walker hasn't been 100% all year. All year long, Kemba Walker hasn't been 100%. Not a chance he's been 100%. Jaylen Brown is now out with that ankle injury. That doesn't help them. So they're relying on Jason Tatum. And by the way, Jason Tatum put up 50 points last night. All credit to him. Jason Tatum put up 50 points. He's one of the best right now. He's one of the best things going. Jason Tatum put up 50 points. But if it's going to take 50 points to beat, at least to win a playoff game every time, Jason Tatum's not going to be able to do that. And that's why I said the Celtics aren't going to beat Brooklyn. So what do the Celtics need to do? Here's the answer. Okay, let's look at their front office. Brad Stevens, he's a good coach. You need to keep Brad Stevens. Contrary to what everybody else says, Brad Stevens needs to stay in Boston. Brad Stevens is a good coach. He is not the problem. You know what the problem is? And I hate to say this because as a Celtics fan, this guy has done so much for the franchise as a player, as a GM. Danny Ainge needs to go. And I'll tell you why, right? They had bumps in the road this year, right? I 100% will tell you every single time that the Celtics had bumps in the road this year. Why does Danny Ainge need to go then? Danny Ainge cannot pull the trigger on a trade. Let's look at who the Celtics had an opportunity to get. The Celtics had an opportunity to get Kevin Durant. They had an opportunity to get James Harden. And those are the two big names that they had an opportunity to get. Chris Paul even, but Chris Paul's getting old. And Danny Ainge did not pull the trigger on either of those deals. He had so many draft picks. And he did nothing with them. Danny Ainge did absolutely nothing with the draft picks he had. So what does he do? He has all these draft picks. He can get Kevin Durant. He can get James Harden. They come out with Kemba Walker. Now, you show me what Kemba Walker's done in the last 2 years. He's done nothing in the last 2 years. Kemba Walker took him to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Okay. It didn't go to the finals. Kemba Walker this year wasn't 100%. You think you think Kevin Durant and James Harden on the Celtics could have gotten the Celtics an 18th ring? I think so. The guy like Jason Tatum, 100%. And whose fault is it that James Harden and Kevin Durant aren't wearing the green and white right now? That would be Danny Ainge. I like Danny Ainge. I do. I think he had Executive of the Year a couple years in a row. He had a couple good years. And now he needs to go. It's his time. It's like LeBron. He had a good run. But he needs to go now. Danny Ainge's time is up. And I think what the move needs to be is they need to get Luka Garza in this year's NBA draft. Luka Garza, this guy's like 7 feet tall. He can shoot. He can play in the paint. He's strong. He's what the Celtics need right now. Their center is not over 7 feet, and that's a problem in the NBA. They need help at the center position. Who are you going to put in? Taco Fall? Taco Fall doesn't have any weight on him. If Taco Fall gains weight, it's going to be a monster. But the Celtics need a center. The Celtics need a center. And that's where I end my NBA topics today. We have 2 more topics to go over, one in the MLB, one in the NFL. And I'm going to start with the MLB because my Dodgers just keep getting these stars. My LA Dodgers, over the weekend, picked up 41-year-old Albert Pujols as a sub and a designated hitter. Let's look at the acquisitions they've gotten in the past year, 2 years. They've gotten Mookie Betts, Trevor Bauer, David Price, and Albert Pujols. I mean, the Dodgers must be just swimming in cash because they picked up this 41-year-old guy who's still got some juice in him. He's still got some fire in him. Albert Pujols stepped up to the plate the other night for his first time as a Dodger. First pitch he saw, single to right field, opposite field single. He's still got some power in him. And Albert Pujols is going to help this Dodgers squad. Now, I know the Dodgers had a bit of a rocky start this season, but the Dodgers are going to pick it up, especially with a guy like Pujols. And Pujols is going to help them. This might be his last year, but Pujols wants to go out with a bang. And what we've learned is if you want a ring, you come to LA. And I'm not talking about the Angels. You come to the Dodgers. Because the Dodgers are going to run roughshod over the MLB. The Padres have a shot. The Padres definitely have a shot. They're not going to beat the Dodgers. They're not as stacked as the Dodgers. If the Dodgers didn't have as many stars on their team as the Padres, or as any other team in the league, I would say that the Padres had a very good shot at beating the Dodgers. But nobody's going to beat the Dodgers now. They're just too stacked. And Pujols helps them out. Moving on to our last topic of the day as we close out our show. Ryan Kerrigan, this week, I believe, signed, or just yesterday maybe, signed with the Eagles. He's a linebacker. He used to play for the Washington football team. He's 32 years old, so he's getting up there in age. He's still a good linebacker. And you know what? He's going to help the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles not only are making a push for the NFC East, which they are now going to win, they're making a push for the NFC. I could see the Eagles being a top 3 seed in this year's playoffs in the NFC. The Eagles are back. Howie Roseman had a great draft for a change. They picked up a coach who seems like he's a winner. Eagles fans, you're back. The Eagles are back. And the Eagles could quite possibly be competing to go to the Super Bowl yet again this year. And that's where I leave you. That's the hot take that I leave you guys on. Leave you guys on a note there to think about. Can the Eagles actually win the NFC? I can see it. So, yeah, that's where I'll leave you guys with that to think about. And if you enjoy this podcast, you want to hear more just like it, go ahead and tune into Sports Talk with Ryan Stoudt every Wednesday right here on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you Sunday. Remember, go on Facebook to our Facebook group. Go ahead and give that a follow to find the MLB play-by-play coming this Sunday night. And again, if you enjoyed this podcast, you want to hear more just like it, go ahead and tune into Sports Talk with Ryan Stoudt every Wednesday on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts, as well as our live stream right here on YouTube.